Okay, welcome to Module 8. This is our final teaching module. In Module 7, we covered resources and roles, understanding what your project needs and who's responsible for what. Today, we're focusing on integration and your executive summary. This is where everything comes together into one coherent plan. Let's begin by connecting where we've been to where we are now. You've spent the semester building 5 components of your project plan, piece by piece. Component 1 defined your project and identified your stakeholders. Component 2 drew a clear scope with boundaries of what's in and what's out. Component 3 broke down the work and created a timeline. In Component 4, you identified your risks and your mitigation strategies. And in Component 5, you describe your resource requirements. Today is about making all 5 components work together. So they're not just 5 separate documents, but one integrated plan that tells a coherent story about how you would execute this project. This is where your strategic thinking really shows itself. So take a moment to appreciate what you've built. You have a complete framework for planning projects systematically. And if you aren't there yet, don't worry. Just go back and review the previous modules and work your way systematically through all 5 components. Component 1 and 2 establish the foundation. What is this project? Why does it matter? Who cares about it? And what are its boundaries? Components 3 and 4 broke down the work. How are you going to accomplish this? What's the sequence? What could go wrong? And how will we respond if it does? Component 5 identifies what you need. That's the people, the equipment, the materials, and the services that you're going to need to make it all happen. These aren't random pieces. They're interconnected parts of a strategic whole. Today, we're going to talk about making those connections explicit. You've built these 5 components progressively. Each module prepared you for the next piece. Nothing was random about the sequence. What remains now is integration, ensuring that all 5 components connect logically and that they support each other. You'll also be writing your executive summary, which distills your entire plan down into 1 or 2 powerful paragraphs. And finally, you'll polish everything into a portfolio quality piece. You want this to be something that you'll be proud to show in a job interview. And this is important. Your final presentation really matters. As I said before, this is the last teaching module. After this, you move into independent study, where you complete everything and you prepare for the final exam. Now we're going to watch Adriana Girdler's video on how to write a project plan. This video is just over 11 minutes long, and it's the perfect capstone for everything we've covered this semester. As you watch, pay attention to how she talks about the relationship between all the planning elements. Notice how she emphasizes getting approval before moving to execution. That's about ensuring all your components work together before you start. Also watch for how she describes building the plan with your team. Even though you're working on this assignment alone, the principle still applies. Your plan needs to make sense to others, not just to you. So let's watch. Now that you've seen Adriana's approach to integrating a project plan, I want you to think about your specific project. Take out all 5 of your component drafts. Read through each one from start to finish. Do they tell one coherent story? Can you see how each component builds on and supports the others? And ask yourself some specific questions. Does your scope statement in component 2 drive your work breakdown structure in component 3? Do the risks you identified in component 4 relate to your timeline and your resource requirements? Think about your stakeholders. Do your stakeholder strategies in component 1 connect to your resource descriptions in component 5? And here's the big question. What's the key insight or the strategic decision that drives your entire plan? What's the thread that ties everything together? Because if you can't answer that question, you're not quite ready yet to write your executive summary. But if you can identify that central insight, then you've found the heart of your plan. I'd like you to find a quiet spot to reflect on this. Take around 10 minutes to write in your journal. And as always, at the top of a fresh page, write today's date and the module number. And below that, write my executive summary and integration approach. Then think about these questions. If you had to describe your entire project in one paragraph, what would you say? What's the key insight or the strategic decision that drives your plan? Why should this project even proceed? And how will you ensure that all 5 components connect logically when you do your final integration work? This reflection isn't your executive summary itself. That gets written last after all 5 components are completely finalized. But this is where you can start thinking about the essence of your plan. How will you know when you found it? Take your time to think about this before you begin. Welcome back. So now let's get specific about your executive summary. Like I said, you write this last, after all 5 components are complete and integrated, after you've polished everything. The executive summary is the final thing that you want to write. It just appears first in your document. Think of it as what a busy executive would read to decide whether to approve your project. 1 or 2 paragraphs that captures everything. So what should go into that paragraph? Well, it's an overview of your entire project, the key insight or the strategic decision that drives your plan. And the bottom line, why should this project proceed? Think of it as your elevator pitch for the entire plan. If you only had 30 seconds to convince someone that this project is worth doing, what would you say to them? Well, that's your executive summary. Now let's go over a concrete checklist for integrating your components. First, do your components actually connect? Your scope should drive your WBS. Your risks should relate to your timeline and your resources. Your stakeholder needs should be reflected throughout all the components. If these connections aren't clear, then something needs fixing. Second, are you showing your thinking? Don't just state your conclusions. Explain why you made each strategic decision, because your reasoning matters just as much as your final choices. Remember, your project plan isn't only explaining what you'll do, but you're providing a justification for why you'll do it and why you'll do it this way. Third, is it professional quality? Please don't underestimate this. Proper formatting, headings, line breaks, they all matter in your final presentation. I want you to ask yourself, is this a portfolio-worthy presentation with clear communication and a specific, non-generic solution? Will you be proud to show this in a job interview? And most importantly, everything should fit together logically. Someone reading your plan should understand not just what you're proposing, but why each piece makes sense. I want to mention the other videos that are part of this module. There are 2 videos on budgeting and cost management that I've linked below in the description. These provide context about how to think about project costs and resource planning, and they'll deepen your understanding of the financial side of project management. But remember, component 5 asks you to describe resources and not calculate detailed budgets. These videos are optional viewing, but they give you the bigger picture. So watch them if you want to understand project budgeting more deeply, but they're not required for completing your project plan. So now take a moment to appreciate what you've learned this semester. You have a complete framework for planning projects systematically. You can now take a project from the initial concept through definition, scope, stakeholder analysis, work breakdown structure, timeline, risk management, and resource planning. And that's real capability. And we've emphasized strategic thinking over memorization. Your reasoning matters more than perfect recall. Authentic thinking matters more than generic answers. Quality matters more than quantity. By the time you're done, you'll have created a portfolio-worthy project plan, something that demonstrates your capability to think strategically about complex work, something you could discuss confidently in a job interview. And that's a valuable professional skill that you'll use throughout your career. So now let's talk about what you need to do during this independent work. First, complete component 5. Describe your resource requirements clearly and specifically. Connect those resources to your WBS, your timeline, and your risks. Second, integrate all 5 components. Make sure that everything connects logically. Fix any inconsistencies. Be sure that your plan tells one coherent story. Third, write your executive summary. 1 or 2 paragraphs capturing the essence of your plan and why this project should proceed. Fourth, polish everything for a professional presentation with clear communication and proper formatting, and create a portfolio quality piece. And finally, remember that I'm available to answer your questions and to review your work, and I highly recommend that you take advantage of that. Reach out to me on Teams chat or schedule an appointment with me during my office hours that are linked in the syllabus. And refer to your syllabus for the specific session details and the submission deadlines. You have everything there that you need to complete this work successfully. And now let me give you a quick preview of the final exam so you know exactly what to expect. The format is closed book with essay questions, and you'll answer those under controlled conditions. Remember, we're testing your understanding of the concepts and not your ability to memorize details. The content will cover all 8 modules that we've studied, and you'll see application scenarios that require strategic thinking. We want to see how you'd apply these concepts to new situations. We'll assess your understanding of the concepts that we've covered, the quality of your reasoning, your ability to apply ideas practically, and your clear communication of those ideas. This is not about memorization. We want strategic thinking, informed decisions, and your professional judgment. But you're prepared for this. You've learned frameworks across 8 modules. You've built your skills progressively. You've practiced everything through creating your project plan. I want to thank you for your engagement this semester, for your thinking, your questions, your work. All of it has contributed to your learning. Project planning is a practical skill that you're going to use throughout your career. Maybe not every job will have you creating formal project plans, but the ability to think systematically about complex work, to anticipate problems, to make informed decisions, those capabilities are universally valuable. Use this capability in your careers and in your lives. You can now plan complex work confidently. You've got this.